Picture this. Araya, the stoic frontman of Slayer, known for his calm demeanor in the face of controversy, finally breaks his silence about one of the most polarizing figures in metal history, Dave Mustaine. It's a revelation that sends ripples through the metal community. A stark commentary on the personality and career of a man whose genius is matched only by his notoriety. Mustaine, the fiery mastermind behind Megadeth and the original lead guitarist of Metallica, has long been both revered and reviled. Araya's words paint a vivid portrait of Mustaine, one that exposes the tensions and conflicts that have shaped his turbulent journey. The relationship between Slayer and Megadeth was always fraught with a competitive edge. As two of the big four thrash metal bands, their paths often crossed, but not always harmoniously. While Kerry King of Slayer was known for his public jabs at Mustaine, Slayer's relentless aggression and straightforward approach to music often clashed with Mustaine's complex arrangements and ego-driven personality. Think of the countless tours and festival lineups where Slayer and Megadeth shared the stage. Behind the scenes, Mustaine's insistence on being recognized as a metal pioneer often grated on his peers. Araya, who valued camaraderie and professionalism, found Mustaine's behavior increasingly difficult to tolerate. The clashes were not always explosive, but simmered quietly, creating a rift that only grew wider over time. Mustaine's history of conflict predates Megadeth. His departure from Metallica in 1983 remains one of the most infamous splits in rock history. Fired for his erratic behavior and substance abuse, Mustaine was sent packing without warning, replaced by Kirk Hammett. For Mustaine, it was a wound that never fully healed. Picture this, a young guitarist brimming with talent and ambition, sitting on a bus back to California, his dreams seemingly shattered. Mustaine channeled his anger and betrayal into forming Megadeth, a band that would become Metallica's fiercest rival. But the shadow of his ousting lingered. His public feud with Metallica spanned decades, filled with accusations, bitter interviews, and thinly veiled barbs. Mustaine often criticized Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield, accusing them of undermining his contributions to Metallica's early sound. Even when they reconciled for the Big Four concerts in the 2010s, the tension between Mustaine and his former bandmates was palpable. Inside his own band, Mustaine's combative nature created a revolving door of musicians. Over the years, dozens of members cycled in and out of Megadeth, many citing Mustaine's domineering personality and perfectionism as reasons for their departure. The relationship between Mustaine and bassist David Ellefson, his longest-serving bandmate, was particularly tumultuous. While they shared undeniable chemistry on stage, their off-stage relationship was often strained by Mustaine's need for control. Drummers and guitarists, too, bore the brunt of Mustaine's exacting standards. His quest for musical perfection often bordered on obsession, pushing bandmates to their limits and beyond. While this drive resulted in groundbreaking albums like Rust in Peace and Countdown to Extinction, it also left a trail of fractured relationships and bitter exits. Dave Mustaine's battles weren't confined to the confines of his own band. They extended outward, igniting some of the most heated rivalries in metal history. His sharp tongue and refusal to compromise made him a polarizing figure, one who thrived in the fire of conflict but often left scorched earth in his wake. If there was one constant in Mustaine's career, it was his ability to stir the pot, turning even fleeting disagreements into legendary clashes. Picture this, the early days of Megadeth, a band still finding its footing as Slayer's Kerry King steps in to help fill out their lineup. The idea seemed like a thrash metal dream, two titans of aggression joining forces. But what should have been a collaboration for the ages quickly disintegrated into animosity. King, known for his blunt demeanor, found Mustaine's fiery personality and unrelenting perfectionism impossible to work with. The tension was palpable. King reportedly grew frustrated with Mustaine's domineering approach, while Mustaine dismissed King as lacking the vision to keep up with his ambitious plans for Megadeth. Their personalities, both explosive in their own right, clashed like a storm meeting a wildfire. When King walked away, he didn't mince words, branding Mustaine as too difficult to work with. For Mustaine, the departure wasn't just a personal insult. It was another spark to fuel the fire of his drive to prove everyone wrong. This feud simmered for years, with the two occasionally trading barbs in interviews. While Slayer and Megadeth often shared stages, the rivalry between King and Mustaine underscored the competitive and cutthroat nature of the thrash scene. A genre built on aggression, where egos were as large as the riffs they produced. If Mustaine's personality was a thunderstorm, Axl Rose's was a hurricane. Aired tours in the late 1918s and early 1919s were a recipe for disaster, with two of rock's most combustible figures locked in an unspoken battle for dominance. Rose, infamous for his unpredictable behavior and explosive temper, found an unlikely match in Mustaine, whose outspoken nature and sharp wit made him equally volatile. Behind the scenes, their interactions were laced with tension. Mustaine, never one to hold back his opinions, frequently clashed with Rose over the chaotic nature of Guns N' Roses' performances. Rose's notorious habit of showing up late to concerts or abruptly leaving the stage infuriated Mustaine, who prided himself on professionalism despite his personal struggles. Their confrontations weren't just private grievances. They spilled into the public eye, fueling headlines and fan speculation. For audiences, it was a spectacle. Two rock icons battling not with guitars but with egos, each refusing to back down. While their feud lacked the outright animosity of Mustaine's clashes with Metallica, it highlighted his intolerance for what he saw as unprofessional behavior, even in a genre built on rebellion. Of all Mustaine's feuds, none looms larger than his decades-long battle with Lars Ulrich of Metallica. Theirs was not just a rivalry, it was the stuff of legend, a cornerstone of metal mythology. When Mustaine was unceremoniously fired from Metallica in 1983, it left a wound that festered for years. Ulrich, alongside James Hetfield, made the decision to let Mustaine go, citing his erratic behavior and substance abuse. For Mustaine, the dismissal wasn't just a professional setback, it was a personal betrayal. Think of Mustaine, sitting on a Greyhound bus, nursing the sting of rejection while Metallica marched forward with a new guitarist. That bitterness fueled his career, driving him to form Megadeth with the singular goal of surpassing Metallica's success. Ulrich, meanwhile, became a symbol of everything Mustaine wanted to overcome. Their rivalry played out in interviews, lyrics, and even fan debates, with each side defending their respective camps. The war of words reached its peak in the 1990, with Mustaine frequently accusing Ulrich of underplaying his contributions to Metallica's early sound. Ulrich, ever the shrewd businessman, largely shrugged off the accusations, doubling down on Metallica's dominance in the metal world. When the Big Four concerts finally brought Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax together in the 2010s, it seemed like the ultimate opportunity for closure. Yet, even on those shared stages, the tension between Mustaine and Ulrich was palpable, a reminder that some wounds never fully heal. What makes Mustaine's feuds so captivating isn't just their drama, it's how they shaped his career. Each rivalry, from Kerry King's dismissal to Axl Rose's chaos and Lars Ulrich's betrayal, became fuel for Mustaine's relentless drive to prove himself. While these conflicts left him alienated from many of his peers, they also forged the fire that powered Megadeth's rise to greatness. Mustaine thrived on confrontation, turning slights into anthems and betrayals into battles. His sharp tongue and refusal to back down made him a divisive figure, but they also made him an icon. For Mustaine, conflict wasn't just a byproduct of his personality, it was a tool, a weapon he wielded in his quest for redemption and recognition, and in the process, it ensured that his name would be etched into the annals of metal history, not just as a musician, but as one of its most complex and combative figures. Dave Mustaine's personal life was a tempest that rivaled even the most chaotic moments of his career. Beneath the surface of his fiery genius lay a man wrestling with darkness, a battle fought not on stage but within his own soul. His struggles with addiction weren't mere whispers in the shadows. They were front and center, threatening to bring his towering legacy crashing down. Heroin, alcohol, and an array of other substances weren't just vices for Mustaine, they were crutches, numbing the relentless pain of failure, rejection, and self-doubt that followed him throughout his rise to fame. Picture this: the brilliant yet volatile frontman of Megadeth, pacing backstage before a show, a bottle in one hand and a syringe in the other. The audience roars with anticipation, oblivious to the internal war raging behind the curtain. Mustaine, hailed as one of the greatest guitarists of his generation, was crumbling under the weight of his own demons. His addictions were not glamorous indulgences, but destructive forces that ravaged his health and sabotaged his relationships. Throughout the 1918s and early 1919s, Mustaine's life became a revolving door of destructive cycles. On one hand, he was crafting masterpieces like Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, and Rust in Peace, albums that cemented his place in metal history. On the other, he was unraveling, lashing out at bandmates, stumbling through performances, and making decisions that would haunt him for years. His anger, often fueled by substances, was a double-edged sword, sharp enough to cut through rivals, but equally adept at wounding those closest to him. Think of this. Mustaine waking up in a hospital bed, dazed and disoriented, with no memory of how he got there. His body, battered by years of abuse, was shutting down. The doctors warned him that another overdose or another binge could kill him. This was his rock bottom, a moment of brutal clarity that forced him to confront the path he was on. His bandmates were exhausted, his personal relationships in tatters, and his career teetering on the edge of collapse. This wasn't just a wake-up call, it was a reckoning. For Mustaine, survival required more than just quitting drugs and alcohol. It demanded an unflinching look at the choices that had brought him to this point, the grudges he clung to, and the pride that often blinded him to the damage he caused. But Dave Mustaine's story didn't end in that hospital bed. Redemption, for him, wasn't a straight line, but a jagged, uphill climb. He entered rehab, not once, but multiple times, each attempt chipping away at the chains of addiction that had bound him for so long. Transformation marked a dramatic shift in his persona. Gone was the brash, devil-may-care rocker, replaced by a man seeking clarity and purpose. Yet, this newfound faith wasn't without its challenges. Some fans and peers found it difficult to reconcile the aggressive, anti-establishment figure they idolized with this softer, more reflective Mustaine. Critics accused him of hypocrisy, while others dismissed his spiritual journey as a gimmick. But for Mustaine, redemption wasn't about public approval. It was about survival and finding peace within himself. Even as sobriety brought stability, Mustaine's abrasive personality remained a source of tension. The same fiery determination that helped him conquer addiction also made him prone to confrontations and stubbornness. His redemption wasn't a clean slate but a work in progress, a constant balancing act between the man he was and the man he aspired to be. Through it all, Mustaine's music became a reflection of his journey, raw, unflinching, and unapologetic. Albums like The System Has Failed and United Abominations carried the weight of his struggles, blending rage with redemption in ways that resonated deeply with fans. His sobriety allowed him to reclaim his legacy and repair the relationships that had been strained by years of chaos. Dave Mustaine's battle with addiction is more than a cautionary tale. It's a testament to resilience. For every fall, he found a way to rise again, turning his pain into power and his mistakes into lessons. His journey wasn't perfect, and his redemption wasn't without controversy, but it was undeniably human. A reminder that even the most formidable figures in music are, at their core, just people trying to find their way. His story, marked by darkness and light, chaos and clarity, is a powerful narrative of redemption, one that proves it's never too late to rewrite your legacy. For all his battles, both internal and external, Mustaine remains one of metal's most influential figures. His genius as a guitarist and songwriter is undeniable, but his legacy is one of contrasts, brilliance tempered by volatility, triumph shadowed by controversy. Tom Araya's revelations only add to this complex portrait, shedding light on the man behind the riffs and the feuds that have defined his career. In the end, Dave Mustaine's story is as much about resilience as it is about conflict. His journey, marked by clashes, addiction, and redemption, serves as a reminder that even the most iconic figures in music are deeply human, shaped as much by their flaws as by their strengths.